Yep, Christopher Nolan has done it again, everybody. Welcome back. I'm John Berg, your average movie lover, coming back to you with another movie review. And today, we are doing a review on the Christopher Nolan's newest movie, Oppenheimer. And basically, in a nutshell, this actually follows the story of J. Robert Oppenheimer and how he became known as the father of the atomic bomb, and basically what happens to him after the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And of course, as always, this is going to be a spoiler-free review, so let's get right to it. Okay, so when I knew that Christopher Nolan was directing this movie, I was like, drop everything, I'm seeing this on premiere night. I mean, knowing that Christopher Nolan was going to be directing this flick, that was enough for me to go to the movie theater to see this flick. Because, I mean, when has Christopher Nolan given us a bad movie to watch? I mean, you have Inception, Interstellar, The Dark Knight. I mean, even Dunkirk was great. I mean, all top-notch movies. So when I went to go see it, I was in the back of my mind, I was like, this movie's going to be good. There's no doubt about it. It's going to be good. There's no way this could be bad. I mean, this movie, though, just wasn't good. It was fantastic. I mean, 3-hour-long movie. It was a 3-hour-long movie. I think only his second movie that's technically rated R. I mean, but the point I'm trying to make here is these 3 hours just flew by because of how much I was into this movie. I mean, there wasn't a single part that didn't bore me. So, I mean, I just enjoyed every second of it. Not going to say, though, that it's Christopher Nolan's masterpiece, because I'm pretty sure there's some arguments here and there that could be saying that there is another movie out there that he made that would be considered his masterpiece. But definitely, this is one of his best films that he has made, in my opinion. I want to first start with the thing that's probably shattering everyone's minds, of course, and that's the fact that Christopher Nolan has sweared by that he did not use CGI once in this film. And I mean, that's understandable. That's usually his style, because Christopher Nolan likes to go for realism over using CGI. So he likes to use as little CGI as he possibly can. But no CGI whatsoever in this film. I mean, yes, there is a lot of dialogue here. So, I mean, it's not like one of those 3-hour-long flicks where you're going to get, like, an hour and 15 minutes of, like, a lot of talking, then maybe 45 to 50 minutes of peril or action, and then going to finish up the rest with a little bit of both. This movie was basically a lot of dialogue. There was no peril coming. There was basically, the big moment, of course, that a lot of people were waiting for was the Trinity test where they finally did the bomb. And but, I mean, even the bomb part was where I felt like there had to be some CGI there. But no. There was no CGI whatsoever used there. And I mean, not even using a VFX shot for the bomb, I mean, that's pretty impressive, in my opinion. If there really was no CGI whatsoever used in this flick, I mean, I'm just mind blown. The cast was really amazing. One thing, it was like an all-star cast. I mean, and I'm not just talking about the main stars, which were Cillian Murphy, Tina Fey, Robert Downey Jr., and Matt Damon. I mean, of course, those four, we all knew they were in there, and they played their roles perfectly, but mainly I was stunned by all the other actors in there. This cast was just nothing but A-list actors. I mean, there was just tons of people who were Oscar nominees, people who have actually won an Oscar already. And I mean, to just have all those actors in this one flick as your ensemble cast, that's just astonishing, in my opinion. The fact that everybody who is like an A-list actor wants to work with Christopher Nolan. I mean, that's how big of an impact he's had on the movie industry. The fact that these actors just want to drop their schedules for maybe like 5 minutes of screen time in his movie. Because a lot of these actors that I was seeing, I mean, I believe there was Josh Hartnett I saw was in this flick. Let's see, who else did I see? Rami Malek was in this flick as well. Let's see, who else did I see? Casey Affleck. Florence Pugh was in there too, but she had a lot more screen time than a lot of the other names I just gave. But a lot of these people just got maybe 10 minutes of screen time, and that was it. They were just an extra. But, I mean, they're still, like, key characters in Oppenheimer's life. But, I mean, the fact that they only got 10 minutes of screen time and just gave it their all, that meager 10 minutes, they gave it their all. Like, they were the star of the show, and in their scene. So, I mean, that is pretty impressive. But back on the main actors themselves, Cillian Murphy was the one who shocked me the most. I mean, I'm always used to seeing him as a villain. He's like a guy that I usually said before. He's like one of those guys that you always see. He plays a villain. I mean, the movies he's played as villains, Red Eye, Batman Begins, he was the Scarecrow, and he is the big main boss in the Netflix show Peaky Blinders. But this is the first time I guess you saw him as a protagonist in a way. I mean, technically the way you see it, you can see Oppenheimer as both the protagonist and the antagonist. He's technically playing both characters. But of course, the main antagonist that you saw in this movie was Robert Downey Jr., who was playing Louis Strauss. But the performances by the main actors themselves, I mean, definitely they were like Oscar-nominated performances. If these guys don't win an Oscar, and if Christopher Nolan doesn't win an Oscar for this flick, then I'm going to be very surprised. I mean, this is probably the movie of the year. You're probably not going to get a better flick than this. Not even probably Barbie was better than this flick, in my opinion. Moving away from the cast now, another thing that I loved most about this flick, well, technically it probably was the thing I loved the most, which probably everyone should have loved the most, was the story itself, the way the story was told. I mean, this movie, during the whole 3 hours, we are hopping between timelines. Like, sometimes we're like here in Los Alamos, but then we're bouncing to like after everything's happened and the bombs have been dropped, and then we're back over here where he's still a professor at Berkeley and convening himself with like people in the Communist Party. But then, I mean, we're bouncing everywhere. But I mean, the way it was told, I mean, I never got lost. I mean, usually that kind of bouncing would probably get somebody lost at some point. But I mean, I never got lost, and I believe it was just the way the story was told to ensure that we didn't get lost, and that's what made the movie even greater. There was one thing that kind of irritated me when I was watching this movie. It's the fact that during some of the timelines when they're discussing the Hiroshima bombing, I don't think I heard one actor pronounce Hiroshima correctly. I kept hearing Hiroshima. I'm like, Hiroshima. Hiroshima is the correct way to pronounce it, but I'm still hearing Hiroshima. I'm like, for God's sakes, it is Hiroshima. Please. It's not that hard to pronounce. The only thing I would say that happened in this movie that was technically wrong, or when I saw something wrong, was technically the sound here and there. There was like some parts in the sound where I'm hearing a lot of echo, especially during parts where it was like where Oppenheimer was surrounded by crowds and people were trying to ask him questions and things like that. I was hearing like echo in there, and it was like reverberating everywhere, and it kind of made it like sometimes hard to understand what they're saying. And then I was like, what the hell did they just say? What did they just say? And that kind of like threw me off a little bit here and there, but not too much to not understand what was going on. So the sound was the only thing that I say technically could have been better, but it was still A+ sound. I mean, especially when hearing it in IMAX, the sound was like still pretty much perfect. It was just in certain parts where it just made it hard for me to understand, like, what are they saying? And, like, what are they talking about? Are they still talking about this? Because, I mean, since this was my first time seeing the movie, I was worried that if I just, like, got lost off track for a second, I was going to lose track where I was, and I was not going to know what was going on in the movie. So, paying attention was very crucial to me. Overall, I'm going to give Oppenheimer an A+. This is the first time I'm giving a movie an A+. I mean, this is a movie definitely I would say go see in theaters, especially in IMAX. You will not be wasting your money. But then again, I can understand how some people may find that since this is a 3-hour movie with nothing but dialogue and no peril and, no action, like, really there, I can understand where some people will get think it's boring, but in my opinion, this is the movie where actually the movie bombed correctly. I mean, it was nice to know that just going to see the Trinity test wasn't going to overshadow the whole story. I mean, there's so much more going on in this movie than just the bomb itself. But I mean, like I said, if you're not into a heavily dramatic film, then this movie may not be for you. But if you are a fan of Christopher Nolan, I would still say this is something it's worth checking out. Alright, so that just about wraps up this Oppenheimer review. So if you also have seen the movie Oppenheimer, please comment down below here, as well as what you thought of the movie, and tell me what your thoughts were on the movie Oppenheimer. Also, if you like my other videos, don't forget to like and subscribe. This is John Berg, your average movie lover, signing out.